live in the information age. We're constantly surrounded by streams of data. Even as I'm standing here now, I'm being bombarded by radio waves carrying messages from mobile phones and satellites. Although we speak many different languages around the world, the technology which drives our modern society is written in just one language: mathematics. This language allows us to transmit information safely, efficiently, and securely. It allows us to do everything from looking at the surface of Mars to bidding securely on eBay.
As soon as you start looking for them, you find codes are all around us. Colour codes telling us where to go. Barcodes on everything we buy. Codes letting us browse the internet and send emails. Codes letting us store music in our MP3 players. We use codes all the time. A code is just a systematic way of arranging symbols to convey meaning. All of these books are written in code. English is just a code made up of 26 letters of the alphabet, and our acceptable code words are contained in here, the English dictionary. DNA is also a code made up of 4 bases, denoted by the letters A, G, C and T. But look behind many of these codes and you'll find some very clever mathematics. You've probably all seen the International Standard Book Number, or ISBN, on the back of a book. In just 10 digits, this ISBN uniquely identifies the book, the country of origin and the publisher. But that's not all it does. Suppose I want to order some more copies of my book. I've got the ISBN, so I enter it into the computer, but I'm in a bit of a hurry and I make a mistake. You might think the computer would send me a completely different book, but that doesn't happen. The computer knows I've made an error, and that's because of a wonderful property of the ISBN. It can detect errors. Let me show you how it works. What you have to do is to take each digit in the ISBN and multiply it by its position in the code. So for example, the first number is 1, multiply that by 1. The second number is 8, multiply that by 2. The third number is 4, multiply that by 3, and so on. Then I add up all of these numbers and I get a new number. In the case of my book, you get the number 187. I've done this for a few other books as well. In this case I get 319, 374, 209, 242. Now I wonder whether you can spot a property which connects all of these numbers together. They're all in fact divisible by 11. Now that isn't some strange coincidence, but an example of cunning mathematical design. If I enter the ISBN into the computer and I make a mistake, this number will not be divisible by 11. And so the computer asks me to resend my number, having detected the error. Pretty clever stuff. But codes can do even better than that. Mathematicians have designed codes that not only spot flaws, but fix them too. These error-correcting codes let us hold conversations with people hundreds of miles away, despite the constant presence of low-level radio wave interference. The most dramatic demonstration of the power of these codes is the pictures of planets and stars beamed back from thousands of miles away. There are plenty of opportunities for satellite signals to get distorted on their long journey through space. Whilst we can ask somebody to repeat themselves if they break up during a phone conversation, it's usually impossible to make a satellite turn back and take new readings. But thanks to mathematical error correction, we can still work out what the original signal was and produce these beautiful images. I met Professor Keith Ball, who explained how these amazing error-correcting codes work. Hi Keith.
Hi Marcus.
So how do we actually use mathematics to correct errors in codes?
Imagine that the information is going to be transmitted as, let's say, a sequence of zeros and ones. We use mathematics to represent those possible sequences that might be transmitted geometrically as points in space. Then from among all the points represented by all these coins, we select just a few special points that we will insist are the only sequences that will actually ever be sent. And we choose these special points in such a way that they are well separated from one another. And that means that the chance that the transmission will accidentally convert this message into something that looks like this message is very, very small.
So how can we actually use this picture to correct the errors?
Well, suppose we receive this particular message. Then we assume that that was the one sent, because it is one of the allowable messages. But if we receive this, we know an error has been made, and our job is to guess which of these gold messages was actually sent. And of course, we guess the one which is close to it.
Right.
We assume that it wasn't one of these that was converted all the way into this mistaken message.
So it's a very nice use of very pure mathematics in quite a practical application.
Yes, it's very pure, and one of the most attractive features of it is that it brings together different parts of pure mathematics. The geometry and the algebra which is used to understand the geometry are interacting in a very, very subtle way to produce the outcomes that we want. And one of the nicest and strongest things that you can get in mathematics are situations in which different parts come together and produce unexpected results.
Right. Thank you very much, Keith. Sometimes the last thing we want is for our codes to give away information. We want to use them to keep things secret, whether it's personal details, business information, or a matter of state security. We need ways of conveying information so that only the people we choose can understand it. Mathematics proves to be a most useful tool for doing this. Throughout history, codes have been used by governments and their armies to carry information through enemy territory and keep plans secret. In most wars, as well as the physical battle, there has been a battle of wits between the code makers and the code breakers. Mathematics is the ultimate weapon in the cryptographer's arsenal. This looks like a complete load of gibberish, but actually it's written using something called the substitution or Caesar cipher, after Julius Caesar, who was one of the first historical figures to use it to keep messages secret. The way it works is like this. The letters get scrambled up, so for example an A becomes an X, a B becomes a W, and so on. Provided the sender and receiver agree the key in advance, they can read each other's secret messages. But to everybody else, the message remains a complete load of nonsense. Or at least, that's the theory. Unfortunately, the substitution cipher has a major flaw. It can be cracked using a simple statistical technique called frequency analysis. Here's how it works. In the English language, certain letters occur more frequently than others. The letter E, for example, is the most common letter, occurring nearly 180 times more often than Z. If you count how many times each letter in an encrypted message occurs, you can use a frequency distribution table to match the letters up. The longer your message, the better the fit. So, unless you can find some additional trick to hide the frequency of the letters, your secret will be out. But that's not the only problem with this sort of code. To send an encrypted message, sender and receiver have to meet in advance to agree a key. And to keep things extra safe, you should change that key regularly. Fine for a spy novel, but it's a huge problem that faces anyone who wants to do business over the internet. Imagine if every time you wanted to send a private email or give your credit card details to someone, you had to meet up with them beforehand. Luckily, mathematics provides a solution.
Thank you, sir.
Great, thanks. Suppose instead of having just one key which is used to encrypt and decrypt messages, I had two keys. The first key gets used to encrypt the messages, so I can make lots of copies of these and send them to everybody I want to communicate with me securely. The second key is used to decrypt the message, so this key I need to keep very secret because this is the only one which will decrypt the message. Turning this neat thought experiment into a practical application was one of the biggest cryptographic breakthroughs of the 20th century. And the answer involved some of my favourite numbers, the primes. Just as every substance on the Earth is made up of elements from the periodic table, so every number can be built by multiplying prime numbers together. These numbers, which are only divisible by themselves and 1, are the building blocks of mathematics. Multiplying two primes together like mixing two elements, is easy. But reversing the process, like trying to separate two chemicals, is much more difficult. It's very quick to multiply the primes 13 and 17 together. But what are the primes that built the number 667? That takes a little bit longer. As the number gets bigger and bigger, the problem becomes harder and harder. So if you take a number with over 100 digits, you're going to have to check more numbers than there are atoms in the universe. Mathematicians realised that they could use this problem to protect credit cards on the internet. The large number becomes the public encryption key. Your computer uses this large number and scrambles your credit card together. But to unscramble the credit card, a hacker has to find the two primes which built this very large number. So these two primes, known only by the website, can be used as the private decryption key. This problem of factorization lies at the heart of internet security. Without mathematics, we wouldn't have iTunes, eBay, or Amazon.com. The world would be a completely different place. If modern cryptography relies on finding primes to build these large numbers, with the rapid expansion of the internet, are there enough primes to go around? After all, there are only 109 chemical elements. Perhaps we're in danger of running out of primes. Fortunately, this will never happen. Unlike the chemical elements, there are in fact infinitely many prime numbers. We know this thanks to my favourite mathematical proof, first discovered by the ancient Greek mathematician Euclid. Suppose somebody came to me with a finite list that they claimed contained all the primes. Euclid's proof shows why there must be some primes missing from the list. Multiply all the primes together and then add 1. You can't divide this number exactly by any of the original prime numbers because you'll always get remainder 1. So either the result is itself a prime number, or it's divisible by some other primes not on the list. Either way, you can see that there is at least one more prime than the person first thought of. This argument works however many primes he adds to the list. So no matter how big the internet gets, we'll never run out of primes. But will this method of encryption always be safe? With today's fastest computers, it still takes ages to crack a 200-digit number into its prime constituents. Most mathematicians actually believe there won't be some mathematical trick that will quickly find the prime factors of large numbers. Mathematicians may not actually be the best equipped to crack these prime number codes, but the physicists. A quantum computer, if it could be built, would actually find the primes almost instantaneously. By exploiting the strange discovery that one electron can be in two different places at the same time, these quantum computers would make the factorization problem almost a triviality. But the reality of quantum computing is probably still some far distant dream. Right now, the codes based on these prime numbers are probably the most secure way to send information securely.
The information age is built on mathematical foundations. Everything from the way we do business on the internet to the pictures you're looking at right now depend on mathematical codes. Just remember, the next time you see some fantastic CGI effect in the cinema or download a music video onto your iPod, that's because some mathematician somewhere has come up with a smart way to code the world around us.